What we've seen in India is a complete media capture of a scale which I think is literally unprecedented anywhere in the world. Now you flip. Fox News on steroids.
Well, more right-wing than
Newsmax on steroids.
Do they accept that they're basically in the lap, the gourd of Narendra Modi?
You've got journalists who spent years in jail just for simply going out and reporting a story.
What is your advice to people in the US media who are dealing with this landscape now?
Lawyer up, show some spine, form solidarities. You can't fight this on your own. If they don't show spine, then newsrooms are screwed and independent journalism is screwed.
Do you fear for your safety as someone who's now an independent journalist, not protected by the might of NDTV? Freedom of the press is under assault not just here in the US, but all over the world, including in India, which is often described as the world's biggest democracy. And yet India now ranks 157th in the World Press Freedom Index. Press freedom has been repeatedly attacked by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's far-right BJP government. It's a crisis that Reporters Without Borders has even deemed an unofficial state of emergency, especially as high-profile Indian media outlets like NDTV, for example, get bought by billionaires allied with the government. Sound familiar? Joining me now to discuss what's been happening in India with the media and what lessons there may be for us here in the US is the award-winning Indian journalist and anchor Srinivasan Jain, who has joined the independent media movement after he ended a nearly 3-decade career at NDTV. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good to see you here in the US. After Donald Trump's inauguration, January 2025, I remember you were living in India, Modi's India, and you texted me. I've got the text, I checked it before we came on the show, asking me if I was okay.
Yes.
And that you never thought, living in Modi's India, you'd be worried about fellow journalists in the US. And thank you for that text. Thank you for the concern.
Not at all.
You're here in the US now. You're traveling around the US. You're working. How bad do you think it's gotten here compared to India?
I mean, I think it's quite interesting that we're looking at this whole kind of replication of what we think of as the kind of Indian formula or the Modi formula getting transposed here. It's happened at a speed and scale which has taken many of us watching from India by surprise.
Yes.
We knew things were going to go bad.
Yes.
But it does seem, it's like a dramatic drop when you actually see media houses being bought over, CBS flipping. We see law enforcement landing up at journalists' doors. We see large-scale layoffs and,
But do you feel like it's
Washington Post.
But do you feel like I'm seeing what I see at home?
I definitely feel that. I very much see this as part of what we've experienced for the past, decade plus. In fact, even longer. The Indian media has never been fully free, but, past decade has been absolutely catastrophic. So there is a sense of deja vu, but it's also important to remember that there are still greater safeguards and protections here, that despite everything that's happened, there is a greater degree of media diversity. There are still institutions that stand up. Here in the US. What we've seen in India is a complete media capture of a scale which I think is literally unprecedented anywhere in the world. Because you have to understand that if you think about the numbers, we have 400 news channels.
Wow.
We have 100,000 newspapers and countless digital sites. So for the Modi government to be able to largely bring this huge media ecosystem to heel is a dubious achievement.
Modi government supporters would say it's exactly those numbers that say you're wrong, because how could we have taken over 400 news channels or 100,000 newspapers?
So, the proof of the pudding is in the watching of it. There was a time when if you flip through the Indian news media landscape, TV, you'll still get the equivalent of, let's say, 50 CNNs, 50 Fox News, 50 MSNBC and so on. Now you flip. Fox News on steroids.
Well, more right-wing than
Newsmax on steroids.
Yeah.
Fox News. So it's just been, it's very evident. You don't even need to necessarily do much head scratching.
You spent nearly 30 years at NDTV, one of the prominent Indian news channels, very respected channel, before it was acquired at the end of 2022 by Gautam Adani, a close friend of Modi,
yes,
one of the richest men in India. What was going through your mind when you heard that news that he was buying NDTV? And did you immediately say, I got to leave?
The moment the news came out, a bunch of us said, game over. And it was just a question of waiting it out to see when that would happen. We sensed that in some shape or form, they would come after NDTV because we were literally like the last man or the last woman standing. So it was just kind of like running the clock down. So by the end of 2022, the takeover was about to be formalized. They called us, members of the Adani group. They called a bunch of us, the guy who's going to head the media establishment. And he said to us, we love you guys. We're not going to touch your freedom. We're going to run this remotely from Bombay. We're based in Delhi. You guys take care of it. Within the first week they come in, they take over editorial, they take over production, they take over corporate, and I was out. In a month, I was out.
Wow. So you've got this takeover. You've got Modi bringing the Indian media to heel, as you say.
The only problem, Mehdi, is that there is no outlet for this, right? Because there's a complete
There's not
capture
the
of
same space for independent media that there is in the US, for example, like Zeteo.
No. So I was about to say, so the mainstream is a wash. What's happened is all the kind of critical reporting has shifted to digital, and there's a huge audience that's actually consuming content which is critical of the regime, which is actually what journalism should be doing.
But isn't there also censorship online? The Modi government has been known to tell Facebook and Google and others what to do, what to take down.
Extraordinary. You actually have a situation where Twitter, which is not currently right now a bastion of free speech, is fighting the Indian government in court because of the number of takedown notices. Last year alone,
And
there were
Elon Musk
apparently
is pals with
8,000.
Modi.
Elon Musk, yeah. 8,000 takedown notices for Indian handles on Twitter. So there's a huge crackdown. Not only that, I mean, again, a point of distinction between here and India, and maybe that's shifting, is that they've actually used anti-terror laws to go after tiny digital websites like NewsClick, put them away for good. So they've understood.
Huge challenges for Indian reporters.
Huge challenges. I think the government has understood that digital is really where the battleground is, and that's really what we need to focus on.
And of course, a lot of these big tech companies have cozied up to Modi, so it makes it easier for him. I mean, I didn't know about the Twitter news. I'm glad that's happening, but I have seen Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg hanging out with Modi, enjoying their time with him. Over the past decade since Modi came to power, more than 24 journalists have been killed in India. I have to ask, do you fear for your safety as someone who's now an independent journalist, not protected by the might of NDTV?
Well, I don't want to kind of make a hero out of myself, because I, in some ways, represent peak privilege. I'm a male, Hindu, English language journalist who's worked in the mainstream space. So I have a considerable degree more of protection.
Profile.
Yeah, and look, there's
and you're not a woman. Women get a lot.
I was about to say, if I was a woman, if I was a Muslim, if I was, a vernacular journalist working especially in a small town in India, it's a different ballgame. It's not that I don't get threats.
Yeah.
It's not that you don't get a shit ton of abuse, but it's more like your access is cut off and things like that. But otherwise, for a majority of our fraternity, you've got journalists who spent years in jail just for simply going out and reporting a story. So it's a different reality for those who are actually sort of in the trenches.